All right, let's take you back to Durban and KZN. This is where the memorial service of the late former Minister Pravin Gordhan is currently underway. We believe longtime friend and comrade Maharaj is on the podium.
With me when I don't address the others, because at my age I forget names, so I can't refer to each of them. I know their positions, but I've forgotten their names. Though the demands of the democratic era on Pravin's services took him away from Durban, he remained at heart a Durbanite, and he chose to be cremated here in Durban. I like to think that he made this choice because he never drifted away from the community where he cut his teeth in the struggle. It is here that his lived experience instilled in him the need to mobilize the communities to organize themselves on the basis of the national struggle for liberation, that it was critically linked with the everyday plight of the communities. He and a group of activists mastered the art of mobilizing while ensuring that the repressive regime would find it difficult to close down their activities. Their success inspired a mushrooming of community-based organizations around the country, a proliferation which eventually gave solid substance to the formation and actions of the UDF. Communities engaged in their own seemingly localized actions found themselves as part of a larger family of resistance that engulfed the country. It is in this environment that Pravin grew to become an activist, an organizer, and a leader. I am prone to emphasize that it is the people who are the makers of history, that our primary task is to mobilize and channel the people's energy to bring about social change. Pravin's character was molded in an era when survival in the struggle demanded that you remained part of the crowd and avoided publicity that many in today's South Africa court. Pravin would readily acknowledge that the struggle made him into who he became. And at the same time, it is also true that he played an indelible role in shaping the struggle and the conduct of the struggle. The veritable outpourings of messages of support and appreciation from within South Africa and across the globe transcend the years of vituperation, personal humiliation, and racial insults that were showered on him. Together, these messages, which continue to come even today, are a testimony of the high regard in which Pravin is held. They are a store of information about PG that will need to be mined in order to get a true measure of his legacy. Let us hope that this will in some way provide comfort to his wife Vani, his daughters Anisha and Prisha, and the extended family, for they have been an inseparable part of making PG into the national figure in the struggle against apartheid and the development of our democracy. Often, leading public figures are mythologized. We live in an age when it is becoming increasingly possible to see the man inside the myth. And this is important, colleagues, because unless such figures are seen as human beings like you and me, their legacy will be reduced to the role that we admire, but we do not see ourselves in it. We need today, instead, role models that fuel our aspirations and help us see the potential inside each of us. What is good about the tributes is that collectively they bring out the man we would like to be, despite the foibles and frailties that each of us possess, which, by the way, is an attribute of all human beings. I don't know of a single human being who is without frailties and foibles. There is, however, a Pravin in each of us. The challenge is how to bring that out by doing things that make a difference to the lives of others. The tributes that have poured in paint an interesting picture. His many facets and attributes come to the surface in different instances and through different eyes. But let me be clear in this regard. I do not give any weight or credence to the bile and vituperation in the social media and in the statement of tin hats who think that adorning themselves in red makes them revolutionaries. Those tin hats have a different preoccupation. The current efforts of the red tin hats is opportunistic. Their pathological hatred throws out of the window the tenets of Ubuntu because PG was a core of the collective that stopped the capture of the Limpopo provincial administration by companies such as On Point Engineering. PG fought against corruption and illegality. He not only closed the taps, SARS also pursued tax liabilities against the individuals involved. And it is possible that investigations into some of those cases are continuing. And they, together with some in the ANC, hated him with a passion because until his last breath, PG would not bend. PG became the target of both these groupings. They not only sought to play the man, but invoked racist rants because he happens to be an Indian South African. We fervently hope that those who succumb to this, especially within the ANC, will find a way to look within themselves and rid themselves of these inhumane practices. This is an essential part of the renewal of the ANC. Racism and playing the man have no place in our movement. And those who fail to correct themselves should find no place in a revitalized ANC. The tributes paint a picture of PG. They paint a picture of a man consumed by his duty to the downtrodden, a fighter who understood that the people do not, through their spontaneous action, become the makers of history, that he saw the critical and necessary role of the ANC and the tripartite alliance. He understood from an early age the necessity of creating a disciplined organization that embodies the goals of freedom, non-racialism, and equality. This was the source of his loyalty to the ANC. And even though in the latter years his faith was sorely tested, despite his disappointment with the ANC and misgivings about the party's future, he continued to support and campaign for the ANC. He remained deeply concerned about the continued existence of networks of patronage and corruption embedded in parastatals. He was frustrated by the ANC's toleration of many state capture figures that remain in the leadership positions in the party, in cabinet, and in parliament. I would commend, and there are many wonderful tributes that have been paid to him, but I would commend in this regard the poignant tribute by Nkubisi Jonas, for this provides an insider account of the fight back in Treasury and the mettle of PG as a leader who was not only strategic in his outlook, but was very much a hands-on fighter, a person ready to dirty his hands. PG experienced a lonely life in two different times and two different environments. In both, he found solace because he knew that what he was doing was the right thing to do. He knew that he was on the side of the downtrodden. But he also understood that the loneliness of an underground fighter arises because a freedom fighter is often unable to lead a stable family life, is often separated from his or her loved ones. This, however, was a relatively self-imposed lifestyle in pursuit of the noble goal of freedom. The lonely space that he found himself when confronting both state capture and corruption and engaging to eliminate these reactionary tendencies created an environment where he found some of his own comrades turn against him. This time, he had his family with him. He saw the pain that visited them because of his determination to remain incorruptible, a pain visited on him and his family by some of his own colleagues. His pride and his pain are captured in parts of two poems. His pride is mirrored in an Afrikaans poem by Jan Cilia. Ek hou van 'n man wat sy man kan staan. Ek hou van 'n arm wat 'n slag kan slaan. 'n oog wat nie wiek, wat baas kyk. En 'n wil wat so vas, soos 'n klipsteen staan. I like a man who stands as a man. I like an arm that can strike a blow. An eye that never shies away, that can pierce a crack. And a will that stands steadfast as a rock. His pain is reflected in the fragment of another poem. The water song ends by the Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. And I quote, "For my part and yours we comply, we share our hopes and winters. And we have been wounded not only by mortal enemies, but by mortal friends, and that seemed all the more bitter. But bread does not taste sweeter, nor my verse in the meantime living. We supply statistics that pain still lacks. We go on loving love, and in our blunt way, we bury the liars and live amongst the truth tellers." Hambagate, Comrade Pravin, Hambagate, Kawalamaka.
Thank you, Comrade Mac, for as always telling it like it is. It was not easy for Comrade Pravin. He was very lonely at times. Fortunately, he had the support of Vani and the family, and I think we cannot thank you enough for that, Vani. Really, you were his rock. But not easy. And despite all that, he continued to fight the good fight, something that the expectation is that all of us do the same. I think those of us who were with him when he was really ill remember.
Live visuals there from Durban at the Kendra Hall. Standing ovation for longtime friend and comrade Mac Maharaj. Mac there saying Pravin's character was molded in an era where you had to associate with a crowd and shy away from publicity, something that was not seen of late. He also says today's generation needs role models that fuel our aspiration, why leaders must not be myth-like. We need to see ourselves in today's leaders. Mac has also made reference to the EFF statements following Pravin's passing. He says the EFF has thrown away the tenets of Ubuntu, and also speaking to ANC members, saying racism in particular should have no place in a revitalized ANC.